it's Angelo, and since a lot of you have frequently been asking about my interface, my WeakAuras, and all of the add-ons I generally use in game, today we are revisiting my interface in World of Warcraft. Now, we've looked at my interface about 7 months ago during the Tomb of Sargeras, but I didn't really go into complete detail with it back then, but I'll be sure to do it this time around in order to clear up a few questions you will most likely have. I've made a few minor tweaks to my interface as well, but nothing major that should surprise you in any way if you have watched the previous interface video. In this video, we'll go over my WeakAuras in detail, my ElvUI settings, my hotkeys, my nameplates, and other minor add-ons that help me while playing. If I leave anything open or am not broad enough on a topic, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to cover everything properly. Now, of course, without any further ado, let's go right ahead and have a look. Let's start the video off with the WeakAura that most of you are asking about, the cursor. I'll leave a link to it in the description, but I got this WeakAura from an old friend a long time ago, and I've been using it ever since, really. What this WeakAura helps with a lot is multi-dotting, as it allows you to spot your mouse a lot easier amidst a hectic encounter. When having to target switch, or when having to ramp up damage on multiple targets, your mouse is your most important friend, and this cursor circle does a beautiful job at displaying my cursor at all times. This WeakAura will find its use no matter what class you play. I use it on my priest, my hunter, my DK, and literally any other class I'm playing. As with any WeakAura, just import the string into your WeakAura listing, and the circle will be usable without having to change anything. Sometimes the circle will either disappear or move away from the mouse, but this only happens after a new patch has been implemented. If this happens, just delete the WeakAura and reload it, and it should be fine. Again, I'll leave the paste bin for you in the description below. Another WeakAura I am currently using is actually a completed suit or WeakAura combination, which can be found on wago.io or wago.io, however you want to call it. This suit combines an Insanity bar, all main Shadow Priest abilities along with their cooldown, and talents. Now, I actually removed a few factors of this WeakAura. I added another Insanity bar, which was a little smaller and compact, and beneath it, I added a little haste percentage counter, which appears within my cast bar. Of course, you can move this around to wherever you would want to. Underneath, I display my Voidform stacks next to my Auspicious Spirits tracker. Of course, I leave a link to all of these in the description as well, but I personally feel very comfortable with using these with the layout that I'm using them with. I keep them relatively centered and slightly beneath my character so that I don't have to look around too much to track everything important during a fight. Right next to the spells, or rather right beneath my health frame, I have an estimated kill time tracker, which essentially just shows me how long it will take for an enemy to die with the amount of DPS it is currently taking. This helps me to judge when to use my potion while in a fight, when to try my best for a super long void form, or, for example, when to enter Surrender to Madness. The tracker is dynamic, so it will change depending on how much damage the raid is currently doing, and if you have killed the same boss you're currently on before, will show you your personal best time for killing the boss. To the far right of the screen, right above my damage meter, I have a WeakAura that tracks all current raid cooldowns and, of course, obviously their cooldown. This is helpful if you want to know which spells are ready and which aren't, and of course I leave these WeakAuras in a paste bin for you as well. Now, let's close up on the WeakAuras and let's have a look at my ElvUI settings. Most of my interface, like the health bars, the raid frames, and the action bars, as well as the minimap and the menu, are enhanced by ElvUI. ElvUI is relatively easy to set up if you want to try it out, and literally has endless amounts of customization options for you to modify your interface the way you personally like it. For example, my unit frames and my raid frames are colored in purple in order to resemble a Shadow Priest inspired look. All text and font you see on screen is also modified by ElvUI to be slightly brighter and a bit thicker in order to be seen better, especially since a lot of the interface is colored. Setting up ElvUI is honestly super easy, as the menu is pretty self-explanatory, but for starters, when installing ElvUI, you want to choose the high resolution layout along with any design, so class, dark, or classic, it doesn't matter, and what I personally did is install my layout to healer instead of caster DPS. This is so that more action bars appear on screen without me having to enable them really, but that is of course completely up to you. When talking about my hotkeys, things get more complex. I do feel as if they're an integral part of my interface though, so I'm definitely going to mention them. Now first off, my hotkeys may be very confusing to you, but that's okay because you'll understand why. I play World of Warcraft with a Razor Naga, so most of my keybinds will be bound to the keys that are almost impossible to reach with your hand when using a regular keyboard layout, but you can try the following similar rules as I do. So all of my important spells are bound from F1 to F12, which are all on my mouse, and 1 to 4 on my keyboard. I also bind A, S, and D, which most of you will probably use to move, as I only move with Q, W, and E to give me more available keys to bind. My void form is bound to 1, as it's super easy to reach, and is obviously super important. I macroed my void form to combine Void Eruption and Void Bolt into one key, as during the Legion beta, Void Form and Void Bolt were separate spells, but again this isn't necessary anymore since this has been changed with the introduction of Void Eruption. I also have it mouse-overed, allowing me to throw Void Bolts on any target I choose. On 2, I have my Mindbender, on 3, my Racial ability, and on 4, my Stun. I will follow this trend of abilities and their placements on any class I play mostly, which I will show you in just a bit. Now, F1 to F5 are my most important damage spells, with Vampiric Touch being on F3 and Shadow Word Pain being on Shift F3, so essentially the same key. Void Torrent is on Shift F4 to prevent me from accidentally using it while having a comfortable enough hotkey to use it in emergencies. The rest of the cooldowns are pretty self-explanatory as you can see, though with Surrender to Madness being on the very final hotkey in order to prevent me from actually accidentally using it and, well, dying. I do the same on any class with a Bloodlust or a Heroism, and I align my defensive spells the same way on other classes as well, like on my Warrior, for example, here. Now, these aren't all of my hotkeys, obviously I have a few more bound, but I do hope that you get the idea of the method I use when keybinding. And now let's get to other minor add-ons that I currently use. I say minor, but what I mean by this is add-ons that aren't directly related to my interface, but are more so just a quality of life update or change. It goes without saying nowadays, but I do use boss mods, and I've been sticking to bigwigs for quite a long time now actually all of Legion now that I think about it. I like the more ambient, more quiet sounds from bigwigs, honestly a lot more than the ones from Deadly Boss mods, but this is preference based of course, so entirely up to you. To see how I'm performing, I use details as my damage and healing meter, as it's actually the most thorough and detailed damage meter usable currently. Who would have guessed with that name? And due to the customizable update intervals, so the time it takes for the add-on to update and display the actual numbers on screen, just looks so much smoother than SCADA or Recount. I see many people using 2, sometimes even 3 open windows of their damage meter, one that displays damage for example, another for healing, and so on, but in my opinion this is kind of unnecessary, as all I really need to see are the numbers that directly concern me as a player. Now, all other add-ons are essentially just little nice-to-haves, or little gadgets to help me with minor things like Atlas loot, so I'm not gonna go into detail here really. If you want a thorough walkthrough of my castbar though, be sure to check out my castbar setup video where I talk about that subject more in detail, but for now, that should cover the add-ons that I am using pretty clearly. I hope all of this gave you an insight to my add-ons more clearly than the previous video, as that one is slightly behind the times at this point. Ultimately, you should be playing the game with an interface that you see fit, but if this video provides some useful ideas, tips, or insights, feel free to use them in your own interface. I will link all relevant information in the description for you, and should I forget anything, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thank you everyone for watching, and a special thanks to my supporters over at Patreon who help out a lot each and every month. Now, as always my friends, have a good one, start getting excited for Battle for Azeroth if you aren't already, and I will see you all in the next one.